Part 21. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 204. Jin Qiao removed a wooden shelf emptying the flower pot, and pressed it 3 times on a brick that didn't seem to have any strangeness against the wall below. There was a pop sound, but the intact slate floor suddenly turned down, revealing a dark channel. This is obviously just an ordinary organ. Even a powerful monk who sweeps his mind 17 or 8 times can hardly notice it. You should have lighting things like the pearl of the night. After opening the passage, Jin Qiao turned his head and asked Wei Suo coldly. Wei Suo did not say much. He took out a night pearl with white light and handed it to Jin Qiao. After Jin Qiao took over the pearl of the night, he quickly led the way without saying a word. This tunnel is only as good as 2 people walking side by side, without any decoration or any roads. It took about 2 hours of incense in the inside, and walk to the end. Jin Qiao was on the side of the tunnel wall. According to the motivation, after going up, it was in a granary where a lot of rice grains were stored. Seeing such a scene, Wei Suo did not feel anything. After all, there were no less mortals in the Jin mansion than monks. He still consumed a lot of rice a year, but when Jin Qiao pushed the door open, Wei Suo ate it. Startled. Outside the door, the yellow gas was filled, and there stood a boulder with dozens of feet, as if it had suddenly come into a huge rocky valley. This is the Golden Gate Stonehenge of our Golden family. This type of circle can only be put away by the caster, or the position of the flag is strongly destroyed, otherwise it cannot be cracked. And as soon as you enter the circle, you will immediately. The breath was sensed by the formation. Looking at Wei Suo, he was surprised, but Jin Qiao looked down on Wei Suo in general, and said coldly, I have only prepared a spell that can pass this formation. Wait. Don't be 3 feet away from me, or you will be ready to fight the old dog Jin Shenqian fairly. Wei Suo was already accustomed to Jin Qiao's extremely unsatisfactory and bitter attitude. After hearing it, he ignored it, but he carefully looked at the Golden Gate Stonehenge in front of him. With his present consciousness, he could not penetrate beyond 10 feet in this formation, and this piece of yellow stone was actually completely substance. According to the jade amulet given to him by Jin Qiao, as long as the array of eyes is not broken, the boulders formed by this magic circle can be mobilized to bombard and squeeze the monks who appear in it. Moreover, this magic circle allows monks to enter the formation range and then launch it. It is also very useful for ambushing and calculating opponents. Listening to Jin Qiao means that this magic circle was laid out by Jin Shenqian, that is to say, they have now directly entered the 9-story building. In the midst of deep contemplation, Jin Qiao inspires a natural symbol. I saw a dusty yellowish air spreading out instantly, and the shape of Jin Qiao and Wei Suo became a yellow eggshell-like shape. Leng snorted. After reminding Wei Suo, Jin Qiao walked directly into the circle. Followed by Jin Qiao and turned around, Wei Suo only felt as if he had passed a corridor, and then entered a hall, and then walked forward for about a step. Wei Suo's eyes lit up, but I found myself in front of a wide staircase, and behind me was a hall full of yellow air. After Jin Qiao quietly swept up the staircase, Wei Suo saw that he and Jin Qiao were in front of a long corridor. Looking out the window at the end of the corridor, Wei Suo saw that he and Jin Qiao were already the tallest in Jinfu, the location of the 2nd floor among the 9-story buildings. At the moment, the corridor was green, and the potted plants in the pots were all green pearls grown by Wei Suo in the heavenly residence. Even if Wei Suo is now using the hidden secret to hide his breath as much as possible, it is estimated that it is impossible to enter these 2 or 30 green plants without disturbing them. But at this moment, Jin Qiao was already prepared in general. Without removing the bottle, he took out a bottle, poured a dark brown pill from it, and then flicked it with his fingers. This immortality fell into the potted plant of the green plant closest to the 2. As soon as the pill fell into the soil, it immediately began to melt, and then the green zulian yellowed and withered instantly. One by one, Jin Qiao walked all the way, hitting all the pills into the potted plants with his fingers. This does not use the slightest real element, the method of accurately bouncing this pill into the pots, but let Weizhuo admire. It seems that it is no longer a day or two for Jin Qiao to plan to enter the 9-story building while retreating and practicing Jin Shenxian. I don't know how many times I practiced this kind of finger pill. After passing through this corridor, what stood in front of them was a light golden curtain. Jin Qiao sneered, his fingers flicked on his wrist, a row of blood beads flew out, and then as she completed a spell, the row of blood beads turned into a red rune, hitting light gold on the light curtain. After seeing this light gold light curtain flashing, a gap appeared in front of them. After passing through this gap, Wei Suo found that this faint golden light was everywhere, as if it started from the second floor. The entire pavilion was all in this golden light, but after Jin Qiao's application, these golden lights permeated on the two, but there is no abnormality. Entering this light golden light curtain, Jin Qiao went forward with confidence and did not look at the rooms on each floor at all. It seems certain that there are no other restrictions on the connected floors, nor will there be other monks exist. In this pavilion, the layout of each floor is different. It seems that it is to match the band layout. However, following Jin Qiao's bold advance, Weizhuo did not have time to look carefully. Looking at Jin Qiao, it seems that Jin Shenxian was closed at least on the 7th or 8th floor even if he was not on the top floor. However, what he did not expect was that the two of them just entered the 4th floor, and they had just entered a hall similar to the ground floor. The golden light in front of them suddenly disappeared suddenly. This sudden change made Jin Qiao's face instantly pale. And Wei Suo, who felt wrong, also immediately inspired a spiritual light curtain, and at the same time sacrificed his red shield. Almost at the same time, Wei Suo and Jin Qiao's body was filled with golden light again. But the golden light was even more intense, and it came out of a thick golden gas emanating from the floor above them. Falling golden array. As soon as he saw the surging flow of gold on his head, Jin Qiao suddenly screamed with extreme fear, "Jin Shenxian, you actually violated the ancestral training. Arrange the magic circle privately on these 2 floors." "I have violated the ancestor training? Jin Qiao, you brought outsiders into this building, you have violated the ancestor training long ago, and you still have misconceptions about your elders. I can't use any family law for you." As a somewhat old but winning voice was heard, I saw at the end of the hall there was a white hair, wearing a black gold coat, but his face looked very ruddy, only 40 monks of this age. The monk looked sorrowful and looked at Jin Qiao and Wei Suo with an old cat-like expression. But just a glance, and then the golden energy above was depressed, and the entire hall was filled with thick golden energy. Wei Suo only felt that his magic shield and the aura mask were drastically sinking, inside filled with this golden energy, and no longer seeing the monk. In the golden energy above his head, a 5-foot-long gold brick was condensed, striking Wei Suo like a rainstorm. "Do you know how to break this circle?" Wei Suo immediately screamed with ugliness. The power of the broken bricks was close to the magic power of the half-soul order. Obviously, even if he used the set of shields at the moment, it was also support not long. Now he asked Jin Qiao and the old man in green robe. "This kind of magic circle is the magic circle of your monastic circles now. I don't know how to break it. That person is obviously Jin Shenxian. See what he looks like. Here is waiting for the rabbit, waiting for her to come from the net." The old man in green robe screamed angrily, "This baby girl is not only ugly, is also a broom star. Looks like it dragged us off the water. This method can only be cracked with strong force, and it can be broken only by blasting the floor above our heads, but the thunder tactics and thunder system tools cannot be used in this gold system, otherwise the light beam will come down, but it will be deeply affected the harm." Jin Qiao has long lost his previous arrogance. Suo shivered and took out dozens of turquoise flags. These dozens of earth yellow flags came out at once, a group of yellow gushes poured out, and Wei Suo and Jin Qiao immediately formed a big yellow stone. I saw that Jin Qiao waved his hands repeatedly, and the big rocks kept hitting the gold bricks falling above. Wei Suo felt that the pressure was suddenly reduced, and he did not sacrifice the set of magic shields. But at this time, I only listened to Jin Shenqian with a sneer. Jin Qiao, it seems that I have underestimated you, the tuberculosis ghost. Your Golden Gate Stonehenge is actually decorated, but you think you can block it? Do you live in my golden battle? It looks like your backer, the dead wife, is really dead, otherwise you should not be dying. Come here. As soon as Jin Qiao heard Jin Shengxuan's words, his hands and feet were even more frightened, and Wei Suo's face became a bit ugly again. It is obvious that now this ugly woman has nothing to rely on, only she has to find a way to. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 205. The power of this great alchemy is amazing. Just like several monks of Jotian realm weighing more than 5 are constantly casting spells, and there is a monk who really divides the realm of thinking from the outside waiting for it. It is impossible to rush out of the power of this kind of gold gas and gold brick. Fortunately, Jin Qiao's Golden Gate Stonehenge, in addition to its good power, also has the effect of blocking the monk's insight into the outside, so when the two magic circles resist each other, the outside Jin Shenqian can't activate the spells and magic weapons for a while. Attack them. Between the flashes of his eyes, Wei Suo first excited 2 aura masks without stopping, and then stretched out his hand and took out a red feather-like magic weapon. I saw that this magic weapon was instantaneously excited by Wei Suo towards the upper part, and it first turned into a red light, and then with a loud bang, he flew out hundreds of fire feathers, and rushed out amazingly. After being burned by this piece of fire feathers, the thick gold gas and the broken gold bricks were burned like hot oil at first, but after flying a few feet up, the power of the fire feathers was slowly exhausted. The fire light became smaller and smaller, and soon disappeared into the thick golden energy. It seems that this power refined by the tail feathers of this crow is a surprisingly large-scale coverage, and it does not pose a great threat to this large gold array. Between the flashes of his eyes, Wei Suo immediately exhibited the fire of the Samadhi god, which turned into a white innate true fire. Under his control, he condensed into a sharp cone shape, and then kept up. Stabbed. Oh. Oi. Oi. The fire element of the innate real fire inspired by Weizhuo is obviously much stronger than the fire feather of the genius. The surrounding gold gas and the gold bricks hitting this fire light were quickly burned away, but extended upward. After about 2 feet, this fire cone was also unable to get in by the heavy gold pressure, and was stuck in the air. The hall where Jin Shenqian secretly arranged the array was 3 feet high. With Wei Suo's current cultivation practice, it was a magic circle that couldn't let the innate fire burn to the top of his head. It seems that the power of such a large gold array can't break through the 6-sun divine fire fork. The ugly face of Wei Suo stopped the instinct of real fire, but then her Jin Shenqian coldly said, "There is another one, it should be the monk who came in the morning? It seems that Granny Jin told you all the secrets. As long as you tell me everything you know, I can spare you." Grandma's secret? Wei Suo smiled bitterly. He was completely dragged into the water by Jin Qiao. He knew something. If you want to know, it must be Jin Qiao, but he can't believe that even if Jin Qiao said, Jin Shenqian would really let them go. After a glance at Jin Qiao, who looked like the earth, Wei Suo didn't say anything, so she decided to do whatever she wanted. Then he took out a ruby-like sphere enclosing the Tianlan black diamond worm from the Nabeo sack again, spotting the position where a gold brick fell and throwing it away. Now Wei Suo can't think of any other method at the moment, so I can only see if this black diamond worm, which can corrode the gold, can break the air of gold and iron, is of no use. He originally planned to keep the red of the Yin people, but he would take them out every 1 or 2 days to check the thickness of the crystal ball wall. With a click, I saw that the ruby-like ball was smashed by the gold brick, and suddenly a few hidden cracks were smashed. The hundreds of black diamond worms sealed inside were empty, all desperately facing the biting at a few cracks, and between a few breaths, a series of black diamond worms flew out from the inside at an alarming speed. What brightened Wei Suo's eyes was that the thick golden chi around them couldn't seem to stop the black diamond worms. These black diamond worms flew around in the golden chi and seemed to wipe out the thick golden chi around them. Without any hesitation, Wei Suo immediately took out the two red again. First, the innate fire was stimulated, and the wall of the red ball was burned a little thinner, and then the two red were pushed further away. Threw it out hard. As soon as the black diamond worms enclosed in these two red rushed out, the golden energy around them became thinner. Yep. But at this time, Jin Shenqian outside the array also seemed to have found anomalies, seemingly inspiring all the power of this large falling gold array. The gold gas falling down above became more turbulent, and the black diamond worms were also pressed as if to solidify in the cooled lard. Some activities are not working. Seeing this situation, Wei Suoyan sullen his face, and then the black diamond worm that had placed 5 red came out. Among the 5 red balls, at least 400 or 500 black diamond insects were released, and the surrounding gold gas was obviously thinning quickly. Do you have any worms? Hurry up and take them out, and you should be able to break this magic circle a little more at this time. Some of the black diamond worms in the previous 2 red have already fallen. Going down, it seems that these black diamond worms can corrode the iron and iron gas, but at the cost of consuming vitality. Seeing such a scene, Jin Qiao'er, who just felt a little hopeful, couldn't help but yelled at Wei Suo. Wei Suo ignored Jin Qiao'er at all, but he looked up with his head narrowed and his eyes narrowed. Until later, the black diamond worm among the 5 red released began to die a little. When it fell, Wei Suo repeatedly inspired 3 magical instruments made by the phoenix fire raven tail feathers, and I saw the dense fire feathers. The momentum of the sky burned the gold bricks falling above it, and those black diamond worms who were not afraid of the fire element and were rushing through the formation were all brought in, and the gold gas above Wei Suo's head became thinner. Laugh. Wei Suo immediately left Jin Qiao'er a little, inspiring the Liu Yang God fire fork that had been held in his hand. I saw this powerful fire element magic weapon, which turned into a golden light, and passed through the thick golden mist. Hit the floor above his head. A layer of stone powder was smeared on the outside, while the inside seemed to be a slab of gold and iron. With Jin Shengxuan's cries of horror and anger, the golden energy in the entire hall quickly disappeared by half. Although this magic circle has not been completely destroyed, it has been unable to stop Wei Suo at all. I saw Wei Suo also directly stimulated a magic weapon made by the tail of a phoenix crowed crow. As this piece of fire plume rushed out, a black pit was burned out on the floor above the head. After the golden light flashed, the entire circle was completely ineffective. Outside the Golden Gate Stonehenge, which was sacrificed by Jin Qiao'er, it was impossible to see the scene inside the Golden Gate Stonehenge, but Jin Qiao'er pointed a finger and separated several large stones. From the inside, he could vaguely see Jin Shengxuan's face sign in front of the original. A small flag of apricot yellow was sacrificed in front of it, and a glory of a lotus flower appeared on the flag, but in hand was a short ruler holding a black gold handle, which should be the kind of illusion that Yan Heng said. The spirit-level magic weapon has dropped the dragon ruler. But now that I saw the destruction of the phalanx, it probably felt unsafe, and a green shield lingered in front of me. The flag of the old dog is called Liulai Xing Huang Banner. It is a magic weapon of the inferior quality. Waiting for you to break this magic weapon, I will be responsible for killing the old dog when the magic circle broke. Jin Qiao'er was it also regained the tone of previous instructions. As long as I break his magic weapon, you can kill him, but at this time, Wei Suo didn't believe that it was not very useful at this critical time. It was simply Jin Qiao'er that Han Wei couldn't compare with. Politely sneered, if I read correctly, his magic shield is also a real magic shield. Now I will lie to you, Jin Qiao was furious. Success or failure, you will not die if you try. This ugly woman's speech is so unpleasant, and I really want to beat her up. The old man in green robe was also furious, yelling in Wisal. Wei Suo sneered, but didn't say much, so he nodded and said a good word. At this moment, I heard Jin Shenqian say, "The Xiang Tai inside, I think your means are extraordinary. I don't know if you can turn the enemy into a friend. I don't know what benefits mother-in-law gave you, as long as you capture Jin Qiao, I can double it for you." "Is it? Just listen to Wei Suo said, Golden Mother promised me to give me 200,000 inferior spirit stones. As long as you can give me 400,000 inferior spirit stones, I can consider it." When Jin Wire said this, Jin Qiao's face suddenly changed, and he took a step back. He looked like he was about to do something with Wei Suo soon. "Why did you stare at me stupidly, and still don't shoot?" As soon as he saw Jin Qiao, Wei Suo despised it a little, and there was no tacit understanding. It really couldn't be compared with Han Weiwei. After coldly humming the sentence, Wei Suo stretched out his hand directly, inspiring Lu Shenzhenhuo towards Jin Shenqian. 40,000 inferior spirit stones. Jin Shengxuan's eyes lit up at this moment, just as he could discuss. But soon he groaned and saw a blazing golden flame burst from the Stonehenge. This is also because Stonehenge covers most of the light, otherwise the light is the 6 groups of fierce brilliance when the 6 sun divine fire fork is excited, so his eyes can't see at all. Feeling the horror power in this golden fire, Jin Shenqian, whose face suddenly changed, could not care about screaming, and he quickly rushed to the extreme, urging Li Yulai Xing Huang banner to the extreme. I saw a glazed yellow baobao, which was about the size of a few, turned out of thin air, blocking it before Liu Yangshen Huoka. But almost instantaneously, this glazed yellow baolian was broken through by Liu Yangshen Huoka, and then Liu Yangshen Huoka made a fierce fork on Li Yulai Xing Huang banner, marking 2 cracks. The whole face of the glass and apricot flag suddenly lost his spirit, and a magic weapon of the inferior order was even broken by Wei Suo. "Liu Yangshen Huoka? Are you Qin Laomo?" Jin Shenqian glanced at the appearance of Liu Yangshen Huoka at first glance, and just exclaimed in disbelief. A black light flew from Jin Qiao's hand and instantly reached him. This black light was the black knife she used to kill Zhang Wei. "Blood-eating knife? How could you have this magic weapon?" As soon as he saw the black knife, Jin Shengxuan's eyes were suddenly filled with gods who were more horrified than when they saw the 6 yang fire fork. Well, what made Wei Suo frown was that the power on the black knife seemed not so good, but when he flew to Jin Shenqian, the black knife appeared. A deep red blood bead. The blood bead hit the magic shield in front of Jin Shenqian with a slap, and the wind magic shield, which was obviously the real spirit order, was like a piece of paper, and a hole was punched by the blood bead. After that, the blood bead hit Jin Shengxuan's chest without stopping. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 206. Jin Shengxuan's chest collapsed, breaking a hole the size of a bowl. Wei Suo took a sigh of relief and looked at the apparently true shield of the lower ranks of the magic ranks were all easily broken. The power of the blood bead seemed not to be under the 6 sun fire forks of the middle ranks of his spirit ranks. Did he and the old man in the green robe look away before? This black knife, whose appearance did not look good, and whose aura did not fluctuate sharply, turned out to be an upright middle-class magic weapon? What? In a scream, Jin Shenqian, whose blood hole was broken in his chest, was undead. I saw that the vests on him all burned up, forming a bat-like brilliance of gold and black, and the gold cicadas were shelled. Flying out of him, he sternly resisted the black knife body that came later. At the same time, he took out a blood-red elixir and swallowed it into his mouth. The dragon ruler in his hand also turned into hundreds of dark lights, densely filling the entire hall, striking towards Wei Suo and Jin Qiaoer, and his entire person flew back crazy, trying to escape. Wei Suo's face suddenly changed slightly. A monk who divides one mind into one is a monk who divides one mind into one. In such a severely damaged situation, he can still cast such a rapid and continuous spell, and this dragon ruler can't see the reality, and the power is very powerful. It is also difficult to stop his escape. What? But at this moment, with the sound of POO, the real light drop behind Wei Suo was struck by a real dragon drop, while Jin Shenqian made a more desperate cry. When the dragon descending ruler was originally abandoned by Jin Shengxuan's brawn. After breaking the two auras outside Wei Suo, he fell to the ground, and Jin Shenqian, who had already swept to the side window, but he also fell to the ground, twitching on the ground, many thin blood holes on his face, looking very scary. After Wei Suo's slight stun, he immediately reacted, dismissing the idea of removing the aura mask outside him. Black Diamond Worm. In this hall, there are still a lot of black diamond insects alive. Jin Shenqian is hitting hard, all his attention is on him and Jin Qiaoer, but he is not guarded against this kind of worm, and he seems very angry at the moment. It's definitely not possible to live with less air. With a whine, Jin Qiaoer again inspired her black knife and penetrated Jin Shengxuan's body. With this knife stabbed in, Jin Shengxuan's body suddenly stiffened, and immediately there was no anger. What moved Wei Suo's heart was that as soon as the black knife pierced Jin Shengxuan's body, the blood in all the wounds on Jin Shengxuan's body immediately stopped flowing, as if the blood in his body had been evacuated. Haha, old dog, you always wanted to deal with me and Nana, and now finally die in my hands. As soon as he withdrew the black knife, Jin Qiaoer laughed a little while away. Wei Zhuo concealed the falling dragon ruler on the ground, his brow furrowed. Jin Qiaoer's strange wit with a black knife can make him feel threatened, and Jin Qiaoer's ugly girl with thick nose and big eyes bags laughed a little, and it was very ugly. At this time, the remaining black diamond worms were rushing towards the two of them. Now Wei Zhuo knows the black diamond worm's special characteristics very well, and now he deliberately releases a common black iron shield to attract the remaining black diamond worms. Pounced on the black iron magic shield, then randomly issued a few spells, and then the black diamond worms that were already lacking in vitality were killed completely. After killing the black diamond insects, Wei Zhuo flew to the window closest to him and looked out. I saw that the entire golden mansion was now brightly lit and seemed to have been completely disturbed. Many monks had gathered outside this 9-story attic, but no one seemed to enter this 9-story attic. Don't look at it, this building is a forbidden place of the Jin mansion. As long as you don't shout to the outside that this old dog has been killed by you, they dare not enter for a while. You quickly search for the pass of the ancestral hall in the old dog body. Jin Qiaoer smiled abruptly for a while seeing Wei Suo looking out, and said so coldly. Wei Suo nodded blankly, grabbed Jin Shengxuan's body, and searched. But he also noticed the fear in Jin Qiaoer's eyes. He was very afraid of Jin Qiaoer's black knife, but Jin Qiaoer was also the same as the 6 Yangshen fire fork and black diamond worm. And at the moment, Jin Qiaoer might really regard him as that old demon of Qin. At the moment, looking at her is not like looking down on people like before, but is afraid of the residual black diamond insects on Jin Shenqian. Wei Suo took out a green nabao from Jin Shenqian, and found nothing else, but when he took out this nabao, Wei Suo was silent on Jin Shengxuan's body. Pressed, and what made him cold was that the blood in Jin Shenqian really seemed to be completely absorbed, giving him a feeling like dead wood. After taking out the nabao, Wei Suo's insights revealed that there were 2 jade symbols, a spirit bag, and some immortals. With a move of thought, Wei Suo took out 2 pieces of jade. I saw these 2 pieces of jade, a piece of green and red, square, while the other piece was light gold, round, and it was covered with pine, crane, fairy, and peculiar pictogram-like streak. Hurry to give me this piece of jade rune, this is the passing spirit rune of my Jin family ancestral hall. As soon as he saw this pale gold charm, Wei Qiao suddenly ecstatically appeared on Jin Qiao's face, and screamed very eagerly, and when his eyes touched another piece of green and red jade, Wei Suo noticed her eyes. There are also some greedy gods. Wei Suo stretched out his hand and threw the piece of pale gold jade to Jin Qiao, but the green jade amulet in his hand was recklessly retracted into the Nabeo's pocket and then tucked into his own arms. Go looking at Wei Suo's movement, Jin Qiao was obviously dissatisfied, but she didn't say much. After making a gesture to Wei Suo, she continued to walk upstairs. Why? Is your ancestral hall of the Jin family in this building? Wei Suo was startled and stopped at the local place for a while before leaving, but he asked this sentence first. You guessed it right, our ancestral hall of the Jin family is on the 9th floor of this building. Otherwise, why would the old dog Jin Shenxian stay in this building all the time? Jin Qiao sneered, you can keep up with it, maybe after completing our previous transaction, we can continue to deal again. I can rely on you to deal with some puppies and running dogs of this old dog. Wei Suo's eyes flashed, and he said nothing more, followed up. From the 4th floor to the 8th floor, there are no more accidents, and the entrance of the 9th floor is a pure gold gate, which is also engraved with pine, crane, and fairy holding a peach like a peculiar rune. A thick layer of golden light shook on the closed door. Yep. 5 feet away from this door, Wei Suo felt a strong pressure. And this kind of pressure is not the ordinary aura pressure, but the strange pressure of consciousness. With Wei Suo's current consciousness, and then taking a few steps forward, there was a feeling of being crushed and unable to cast a spell. Wei Suo quickly stepped back a few steps. If in this case, Jin Qiao had any evil intentions against him, take the opportunity to deal with him, then he was very dangerous. And Jin Qiao looked at the huge golden gate in front of him at the moment, but his eyes flashed very fiery light. I saw her suddenly take a mouthful, and actually spit out a piece of almost identical round light gold jade charm. In Wei Suo's surprised eyes, Jin Qiao stroked on his wrist again, and a few drops of blood were dripping here. 2 pieces of round jade. Afterwards, she immediately began to focus on the true yuan among these 2 jade symbols. A scene that made Wei Suo dumbfounded appeared. 2 pieces of pale gold se jade gleamed out the brilliance, turned into a ghost image of a fairy holding a hand peach, and then walked in front of the golden gate step by step, and then the magic image of the fairy coagulated by the golden light, stretched out his hand, and pushed gently on the door. With this push, the door of Jin Se turned out suddenly. A hall with many pictures appeared in front of Wei Suo and Jin Qiao. The pictures on the pictures are all personal portraits, which should look like the forefathers of the Jin family from generation to generation. Of course, Wei Suo was not interested in it. What attracted his attention was a pale green mask in the middle of this empty hall. In the pale green mask, there is a piece of ancient charm floating in white. When I saw this white ancient rune, Jin Qiao suddenly showed his ecstatic god. A pair of white rune immediately rushed in and grabbed this white old rune in his hand. Jin Qiao, but at this time Wei Suo yelled her coldly. Jin Qiao frowned, his eyes warned, how? What do you say? Wei Suo ordered the ancestral hall with only 1 piece of white jade. When you talk about the ancestral hall of your Jin family, there are more than 200,000 inferior spirit stones. Where are those spirit stones now? I didn't even see a lower grade spirit stone. The Lingxi warehouse is not here, Jin Qiao said impatiently. I will take you to the Lingxi as soon as I have collected this piece. Jin Qiao, do you really think I'm a fool? Wei Suo's eyes flashed coldly. You are just using me to enter here, only if I happen to have a broken gold array, otherwise you will be harmed by you. I'm dead here. You can't get the spirit stone right now, I can trust you once, but this jade symbol must be put on me first. If you don't take me directly to get the spirit stone later, don't blame me. No. This piece of jade charm cannot be placed on you, Jin Qiao almost screamed when he heard it. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 207. I have given you the Red Wing Flame Demon's Demon Pill, but now I haven't seen the shadow of the first 200,000 inferior spirit stones, Wei Suo said mercilessly, and I guess you haven't been out of the water for a long time. Yunlu, you don't even know if there are 200,000 lower grade spirit stones in the warehouse. In case there is number 200,000 lower grade spirit stones in the warehouse, what do you say? And look at you, your gold family, the warehouse is not here at all. Our Jin family's warehouse is the black two-story pavilion in the middle, and there must be a lot of spirit stones in it. Jin Qiao is now obviously dying of the white jade charm, but he is afraid that Wei Suo will suddenly start. I didn't dare to rush in to get it, I could only stare at Wei Suodeo, and now everyone in Jinfu is brought here by us. We go out through that tunnel and we can easily sneak into the warehouse. Go to get the spirit stone. And now this old golden dog is dead, you only need to help me to kill a few more of his running dogs. All the people of the whole Jin family have to listen to me. How many spirit stones do you need then? That is how much spirit stone, even if the Jin family can't give it, I can double it up later. I think your real intention is to use me as a sword to help you eliminate these people, Wei Suo sneered, but I don't like being used by others. You have deceived me once, take me going to a place where there is no spirit stone at all, I was almost killed here. I said that you are a woman, and I believe you again, but this jade charm must be put in my place first, lest you have any more. What kind of tricks? Otherwise you still have a choice, that is to give something of certain value first, such as your black handle is good. If you can mortgage this thing to me, I will let you take this piece of jade symbol. Jin Qiao's face changed several times, and finally lowered his body in general. He explained in a low voice, this blood-eating knife is something left to me by my parents, and now if I don't have this thing to defend myself, I don't want to worry, because in case you're going to kill me, I don't have this thing, and I don't have any resistance at all. As for this piece of jade, it just records some things, if you put it on you will be recognized by you just swiping it. Then I finally entered this ancestral hall, and it made no sense. Wei Suo didn't express his position for a moment, but just refused to give in. Seeing Wei Suo like this, Jin Qiao said helplessly, that's good, if my next place to take you to is not the storehouse where the spirit stone is stored, I'll leave it to you. What's the use of disposing? You can't get the spirit stone. Wei Suo looked at Jin Qiao, who had been tempered by him, and said, unless you tell me what mysteriousness is in this piece of jade, you can save I was confused by you. Good, it seemed to be very confident in her blood-eating magic knife, so Jin Qiao was also clenching her teeth at the moment, and said, this piece of jade symbol records the cave mansion of an ancient monk who happened to be discovered by our Jin family ancestors. Where? But this cave house can only be entered once in 50 years. This piece of jade records the specific time of the next lifting of the ban and the methods of dealing with some prohibitions. The specific time of lifting the ban and the methods of dealing with some prohibitions are also many of our Jin families. The ancestors of the generation spent countless efforts to figure it out. Sanqiu Dongman, Wei Suo glanced at Jin Qiao with some unbelief. Just a Sanqiu Dong mansion is worth your Jin family's attention in the ancestral hall. Is it worth your desperation to rush in? With your Xiu Wei, even if he takes this piece of jade, I am afraid that he is not the opponent of Jin Chengxuan's descendants. Jin Qiang resisted the anxiety in his heart and explained, it is true that this casual repair is at least a monk above the Jindan period. There are certain magic weapons in this cave house, and maybe there will be a terrific technique. The old dog had only a magic charm on it, and he didn't know how to inspire it. He tried to deal with us by trying to get this jade charm, and I got this jade charm. If I could get one or two things from that cave, I would come back to them and settle the accounts. If I had a false story, the demon who disciplined me to refine the red-winged flame demon failed, and soon Xiaoyuan was exhausted and died. Dongfu of the monks above the Golden Age. Wei Suo's eyes flashed abruptly, but then he looked at Jin Qiao and nodded. Well, since you dare to make such a vow, I will believe you once again. You can go and take that piece of jade break. The cave house of the monks above the Jindan period will be very exciting for any monk. Moreover, although Jin Qiao looked very powerful, he was just lying in the nest. Wei Suo had already come out of her tone in a few words. The monks of the Jin family must have been in this cave. They must know that there are many good things in it. Just because of the limitation of ability, it seems that it cannot be taken out one by one. It's just that this is the ban once every 50 years, which made Wei Suo think of Midiangwu. And for so many years, the Jin family could not take out much from it. Obviously, the monk's cave was also dangerous, maybe even more dangerous than Midiangwu. For such a place, Wei Suo, who had experienced a trip to Midiangwu, was a little bit afraid to go. At the moment, Wei Suo and Jin Qiao are so much nonsense. In fact, just because they can see that Jin Qiao is also a cruel and merciless goods, with that weird blood-eating knife in hand, if this piece of jade is so powerful the magic weapon, in turn, to kill him more goods, then he really was crying without tears. Therefore, at this moment, Wei Suo does not have any ambitions for this jade symbol. Really, Jin Qiao's eyes were full of surprises, but he did not dare to move his foot for a while, or he was afraid that Wei Suo would take the opportunity to attack. Don't I look like a person without words and faith? Wei Suo looked at Jin Qiao and sneered, if I say words without faith, you can't even get the red wing flame demon pill, it is impossible to stand here. When Jin Qiao heard Wei Suo say this, he didn't say anything, and as soon as he gritted his teeth, he flew in, and stretched out his hand. As soon as he saw nothing, he grabbed the piece of white jade from the pale green mask. In the hands. I saw that she paused a little while grabbing this piece of jade. It was obvious that she had already used her consciousness to read the content of the white jade. Wei Suo didn't need to think about it, and knew that this woman must want to be safe. After reading the contents directly, she destroyed the white jade. But after a slight meal, Jin Qiao's face was obviously ugly. She still collected the white jade rune. It seemed that the content of the white jade rune was a bit complicated. She couldn't understand it all at once. Remember. Go, I will take you to the warehouse of our Jin family now. Seeing that Wei Suo was just waiting for her quietly, her face was a little more beautiful, but after walking out of the ancestral hall, she remembered something like that and said to Wei Suo, if we are in the Jinjia treasury, 200,000 sublime spirit stones, how many spirit stones do you want to help me deal with those who have the Jinquan machine? I don't want to intervene in your Jin family's battle, Wei Suodeo said. If you just help you leave Jinfu and this Kifeng city safely, I can accept it. Okay, Jin Qiao nodded ferociously. Go. It took a long time, I'm afraid the group of puppies could not hold back and rush in. Of course, Wei Suo nodded without any objection, but he didn't want to stay a second longer in such a place where there was a prohibition. In the future, it seems that he has the opportunity to learn more about the current circle of monastic circles. The old man in the green robe knows all the ancient magic circles, and many of them now are not useful. A Jin's magic circle is already so powerful. If he encounters many powerful sect and monks' magic circles, wouldn't he be killed by a second without resistance after he got stuck? From the 9th floor to the 6th floor, quietly silent, looking out of the window, the monks of the Jin family gathered more and more outside the building. Various instruments and firelights illuminated the outside of the 9-story pavilion like daylight, but it seems that no monk entered the 9-story building where the ancestral hall is located. But just as Jin Qiao and Wei Suo swept to the 5th floor without stopping, a creak was heard, and a room door on the 5th floor was pushed open by them without warning. At this time, Wei Suo and Jin Qiao suddenly tightened and changed their faces. There may also be a magic circle in that room to block the consciousness, so neither the two nor the old man in the green robe even noticed that there was someone in that room. And the person who came out of the door saw Wei Suo and Jin Qiao, who suddenly stopped, suddenly turned pale. The figure who pushed out the door was very slim, and turned out to be the delicate and beautiful woman we saw in the morning. At this moment, the breath of her body is obviously more vigorous. It seems to have been training Pei Yuan in that quiet room, and she didn't even notice the fierce fighting of Cai. At this time, she just came out. Jin Xiner, who I said, it turned out to be you little bitch. And as soon as it was clear that this woman was there, the fear in Jin Qiao's eyes disappeared all at once, and it was replaced by a very strong murderous opportunity. It turns out that this woman is called Jin Xiner. Wei Suo just had such thoughts in his heart, but he was very frightened to see Jin Xiner looking at him and Jin Qiao, but he didn't dare to move. Jin Qiao, why is it here? I came here, of course, to kill Jin Chengxuan's old dog. Jin Qiao sneered, took out the black knife and shook it. Little bitch, you said you are going to kill yourself, or do you want me to kill you? If you want to kill yourself, I can leave you as a whole body. If you still want to fight with me, I won't be so kind to you. See how you love and smell like you usually do. The self-assured posture of tweaking, maybe I will kill you later, strip your clothes, and then throw them away from this, let the people below show you a light. Blood knife, hearing Jin Qiao's words, and then seeing the black knife that was deliberately lit in her hand, Jin Xiner's delicate body shivered unconsciously. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 208. Chapter 208 True Demon Body Sealing Technique. Zhang family old ancestor has a surging sound and painful surging sound. At the same time, Wei Suo, who was far away from the secret place, was also thrown out and flew out. The mouth was obviously spurting a bloody fog, which was obviously not a light injury. But Wei Suo didn't stop at all, and still kept the remaining red shapeshift great art shields around the body, even when Zhang family old ancestor didn't control the black mirror, not only the black knife, even the 6 Yang divine fire pitchfork, was taken back. Zhang family old ancestor was so furious that he wanted to catch up, but only when he saw his figure, the whole body was shaken, and then he was ugly and stopped, quickly taking out a medicine pill. Swallowed it. This is obviously not old demon Qin. Who is he? There are so many means. Later, Zhang family old ancestor landed on the ground and sat down to adjust. At this moment, Wei Suo's figure has not left his sight, and looking at Wei Suo's disappearing figure, Zhang family old ancestor is all about the urge to vomit blood. The cultivator of the thought division realm second layer, and with the help of heavenly Dao Guden, True Yuan is comparable to the cultivator of the thought division realm fourth layer. The other party is just a cultivator of heavenly circuit realm fourth layer. The fight between the two was originally like a fight between a cat and a rat, but I did not expect that the result of this battle was that I lost an arm and was powered by that blood. Injured heart arteries. The powerful energy of the blood on the black knife seems to be on the spirit shift great art great treasure of spirit rank high grade. If you don't want to give up an arm, you must be beaten by this blood. Beads kill. 6 Yang divine fire pitchfork. Rushing thunder pestle. Black knife. There is also the shapeshift great art clothing on the other side, which is obviously also the true spirit class. Otherwise, it is absolutely impossible to escape after being hit by the true arrow spell shift great art. The powerful shapeshift great art great treasure on the heavenly circuit realm fourth layer cultivator is endless. And the strange silver scepter, the thought of the silver scepter, and then see the science scissors shapeshift great art great treasure in his hand. Zhang family old ancestor is full of the urge to vomit blood. His spring shears are the real spirit rank middle grade shapeshift great art great treasure, but now it seems that it is damaged and even the spirit level is not necessarily the same. The loss of this war is really great treasure. At the moment, when Zhang family old ancestor looked back from the beginning to the end, there was some regret. As I knew so, I should really accept his purchase at the beginning, or put him directly. Wei Suo, how are you? At this time, Wei Suo's days are also very bad. When Zhang family old ancestor's true arrow was hit, Wei Suo only had time to grab the ghost raising jar in his arms and stimulated the shadow shift great art clothing, even though he was always in his arms. The raising jar is intact, but Wei Suo's chest seems to have a feeling of collapse. I saw that in the panic-called surging sound of green-robed old man, Wei Suo, who was desperately flying in the air, finally couldn't support it. It was a blood spurt out, and then the fire cloud at the foot flickered. It fell from the air and fell. A buttock sits on a patch of grass and some muddy bushes. The old man, this is going to be miserable. Wei Suo wiped the bloodshot of the corner of his mouth. After reluctantly saying this, he licked his teeth and took out a few treasure-receiving pockets. Then he quickly got everything out of it and piled it all over him. These treasure-receiving pockets are all obtained from the cultivator of the Golden House. Although Wei Suo seems to have no shortage of arms and legs on the surface, Wei Suo has a slight movement, and the inside of the chest hurts and tears open. A thick and bloody blood rushes to the throat. Without inner vision, Wei Suo can be sure that his ribs are not estimated to be 2. The most important thing is that Wei Suo's guilt is also not a hit, and he has no particularly effective treatment for medicine pill. Now I can only hope that among the pill bottles on these Jinfa cultivators, there is no particularly good treatment for medicine pill. I saw a few pill bottles open in succession. Wei Suo quickly swallowed all 3 dark red medicine pills poured out from a pill bottle, and then kept looking at the rest of the pill bottle. It was only a moment. Wei Suo checked all the pill bottles, and there was a bitter smile on his lips. The current lust shape does not know whether it is lucky or unfortunate. Among the pill bottles in the Jinfa cultivator, there are 3 rejuvenation dans, which can at least prevent his guilty injuries from worsening. As long as his guilty injury does not worsen, there will be no life worry. However, this time Chundan just can save his life. In the absence of other spiritual herb lust, if you want to recover almost, even if you try to adjust the interest, at least a 20-day look. Within this 20-day period, Wei Suo is devoutly using True Yuan without shape-shift great art, otherwise the injury is likely to deteriorate again. If you don't get a spiritual herb in a safe place, you just need to raise it slowly, but now Wei Suo is in the wild. And the most important thing is that maybe Phoenix Nest City's powerful cultivator will catch up. The strength of Zhang family old ancestor also made Wei Suo feel a little scared, and the injury suffered by Zhang family old ancestor did not seem to be his weight. Once again, Zhang family old ancestor alone estimated him. It is difficult to cope with it. But now, there is no other choice at all. After Wei Suo smiled a bit, he took out the treasure-receiving pocket with mind-devouring bug, released the mind-devouring bug, and collected everything from the previous treasure-receiving pocket. Get up, get ready to fight for luck, stay in this secret place and heal. But I was still thinking about Wei Suo, who had another shape-shift great art. When I reached out and touched something, I was obviously bowed, and my eyes looked at the things that were pinched on his hands. In his hand, he was holding a square red jade talisman with a red color. Just before the eagerness, Wei Suo dumped a few things in the Jinfa cultivator into a pile. At the moment, which thing is on the body, and some points are not clear. But this blue-red jade talisman, remembered by Wei Suo at the moment, still clearly remembers that this jade talisman was obtained from the golden fifth patriarch, which is Jin Shenxian. At the time, Jin Shenxian had 2 jade talisman bodies. In addition to the blue-red jade talisman, there was a jade talisman that could be used to enter the Jin family ancestral hall. Now look closely at this jade talisman. Wei Suo is now the jade talisman not only has a very unique color, but also has a faint 8-armed konjac rune on the back. This rune is very quaint, obviously not the current cultivation the thing of the world. Old man, Can you see what this is? Don't know. Green-robed old man is now floating out of the ghost-raising jar, a frowning look, but this doesn't seem to be a defensive or offensive shapeshift great art. Seeing green-robed old man can't see the doorway, Wei Suo tried to explore his divine consciousness. Under this temptation, he was scared to almost call out surging sound. As divine consciousness sneaked in, he only saw Jade Talisman, an 8-armed konjac wrapped in cyan flame, looking like a giant great treasure, waving his arms and roaring, seeming to take his divine in one bite. Consciousness swallowed in general. But what made him feel right now was that when he scared divine consciousness back, this imposing 8-armed konjac did not follow suit, it seemed to be just surging sound in place. General. Wei Suo's divine consciousness suddenly and cautiously approached the past with this 8-armed konjac. Sure enough, this 8-armed konjac is just surging sound, but it does not really engulf the powerful energy of divine consciousness. What makes Wei Suo's eyes look like amazement is that the body of the 8-armed konjac is full of scripture. The real magic seal naked body, real magic condensate. Soon, the table lust on Wei Suo became weird, and the 8-armed konjac that gave Wei Suo the feeling of an great treasure, recorded that it was the 2-piece shapeshift great art. Old man, have you heard of 2 famous names, Wei Zhen and Naked Body? What is the magic shifting of shapeshift great art? After a few moments, Wei Suo took back divine consciousness and looked at green-robed old man. Nope. Green-robed old man first shook his head very simply, then asked, is it a 2-part shapeshift great art? Wei Suo nodded and said nothing, but began to meditate on the 2 movements of shapeshift great art. Seeing his eyes flashing, green-robed old man also knows that he is comprehending the meaning of the 2 methods of shapeshift great art, not to say anything, just waiting. Great treasure. After about a stick of incense, Wei Suo smiled again. This time, Wei Suo finally knows why Jin Xiner was so heavy. It was obvious that he changed other cultivators, and he would die if he died. But he still didn't die. Instead, he killed Jin Qiao. He also finally understood why Grandma Jin is also dead and can no longer die. He can still breathe a sigh of relief, keep divine consciousness away, and talk to him about intercourse. It was all because of the record of the true demon body sealing technique shapeshift great art in this Jade Talisman. This true demon body sealing technique is a unique feature that allows the cultivator to temporarily block the cultivator's injury while the cultivator is not suffering from fatal damage, and the cultivator can also be used when the cultivator suffers a fatal injury. Temporarily not dead, but also a dying one of the strange surgery shapeshift great art. No wonder in the 9-story pavilion, Jin Shenqian was beaten by the blood-sucking shapeshift great art in the lust of the great treasure, and a blood hole was opened in the chest, and the lust was obviously severely injured. Shapeshift great art escapes. Obviously, whether it is Grandma Jin or Jin Xiner or this golden fifth, it is the reason for the acquisition of shapeshift great art. What Xiner's nightmare work on Jin Qiao is also apparently from another piece of the Jade Talisman's shapeshift great art. This magical condensate is actually a sinister shapeshift great art that can form a variety of illusions in the mind of the other when the cultivator is asleep, or when the cultivator enters the cultivation. The shapeshift great art, for Wei Suo, is just one more shapeshift great art that can sometimes be used to calculate people. There is no great treasure, but true demon body sealing technique can solve him. It's urgent now. Dedication. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 209. A moment later, Wei Suo silently swept out of the secret passage in the room where the other courtyard was piled with debris. After sweeping his mind and confirming that there were no monks nearby, he saw that he took out a red ball sealed with a black diamond worm, which stimulated a real fire, and burned the wall of the red ball a little thinner. Inside the secret passage. After that, he took out the flying sword he had burned with yin phosphorus sand on his hand, and controlled it with the real element to stir it inward, and collapsed the entrance of the tunnel. Then he did not rush out, but first took out Jin Qiao's blood-eating knife and the white jade symbol stored in the Jin family ancestral hall, and looked at it. Yep. The astonishing light in Wei Suo's eyes flashed immediately. Previously, this black knife looked like it was made of gold, but now when we looked closer, Wei Suo found out that the black knife that was 1 foot long was not gold or iron, but rather it was used. What bones are made of bones? Although the appearance of this small knife is very ordinary, but the blade body and the knife handle are engraved with countless dense and hefty, even smaller than the ants like the scarlet skull-like runes. And now the blade of the Black Sea is actually faintly flowing with red light, it seems to be filled with blood. Wei Suo tried to inject his real element into it, and the black light was quickly released on the black knife. Afterwards, the red light quickly surged towards the tip of the knife and condensed in front of the tip of the knife. Blood-red beads. I saw the surprise in Wei Suo's eyes flashed and stopped paying attention to the true Yuan. This blood-red bead was instantly absorbed by the black knife and disappeared into the blade of the black knife. What kind of magic weapon is this? Why is it so strange that I haven't even seen it? Feeling that Wei Suo seemed to have figured out the doorway, the old man in green robe couldn't help asking. This magic weapon is very weird, and its power is only half spiritual. But after killing a monk, it is possible to extract the blood and the true element of the monk and seal it in this magic weapon to fight against the enemy. It can be condensed into a blood bead. No wonder it is called a blood-eating knife. Wei Suo looked at the black knife and explained, the stronger the monk who was killed, the stronger the power of the blood beads condensed through this magic array. Only the 5 teeth of Zhou Kaijing's cultivation, the condensed blood beads are already close to the power of the spirit level Zongpan magic weapon. Now there is the blood beads of Jin Shenxian, who is one of the most important things in the world. I don't know how much power is there. However, it is estimated that there is no problem with the power of the spirit of the highest grade magic weapon. It seems that this is the magic weapon of Mozong, the old man in green robe gasped. Isn't that the big demon of the demon repairer is the devil of Mozong? After a pause, the old man in green robe was excited. Shouted, this magic weapon can be reused, then Wei Suo you can kill more monks and save it in it. It is not equivalent to at least one magic weapon with a mid-level or higher spirit level. And this thing is cast once come out, just like the nails of the mother and son, the body looks only half spiritual, and the other party does not pay attention to it. When the time comes, a blood bead is produced, which is more difficult to guard against than the real magic level magic weapon. I just felt that this magic weapon can only store the blood beads of one monk. It can only be used to draw the blood and true elements of other monks. It turns out there are such restrictions, the old man in green robe said with regret. I don't know if it can be used to absorb the blood and true element of the monster. You will know when you try it later. Wei Suo quickly put the black knife into Nebao's pocket. Although there are such restrictions, the power of this magic weapon depends on the level of the killing monk, and it cannot be evaluated by the general grade. Just like now, there is a blood bead that has been rebuilt into a realm of thought, and its power may exceed the magic weapon of the top grade of the spirit order, which is enough to surprise Wei Suo. No wonder Jin Qiao can negotiate with him. It seems that if she had no powerful defensive magic weapon in her body, she had previously seen various means of Wei Suo. Otherwise, it is not impossible for her to kill Wei Suo with this magic weapon. And now Wei Suo can't waste such a blood bead that has been rebuilt into a dream, to see if this knife can absorb the blood of the monster. After collecting the knife, Wei Suo kept on using the consciousness to probe the white jade in the ancestral hall. Baimang Mountain, restraining ghosts. Soon, such words appeared from Wei Suo's mouth. Jin Qiao didn't tell any lies. This jade charm indeed records the location of a cave house and some related prohibitions. At a glance, Wei Suo understood why the Jin family placed this piece of jade in the ancestral hall. Because in this jade symbol, Like some fragments of the map, the recorded things are also scattered. It is obvious that only a few places visited by the Jin family were outlined, and where the prohibition was marked. What kind of power, what kind of brilliance? In almost most places, the method of cracking the ban is not known at all. It seems that the people of the Jin family have only been exploring this cave house, and so far they have only explored a few places and found a few roads that can be safely penetrated a little. And every time they explored, the people of the Jin family recorded some of the things and experiences that were discovered, so this piece of jade is basically a transcript of many people from the Jin family exploring this cave. This is the standard of going forward and succeeding. The predecessors planted trees and the descendants lived in the cold. After all, the more they explored from one generation to the next, the safer the Jin family went in, and the more benefits they might get. It is a pity that the ancestors of the Jin family probably didn't know that when they came to the mother-in-law and Jin Shenxian generations, they would fight like this, and this piece of jade was finally in Weizhou's hands. In this piece of jade, the people of the Jin family have never figured out who the cave house is. It seems that they have only seen the name of a monk named Gu Gijin in it. According to the habits of the monastic world, they are generally the priests who called the Jindan priests were called real people, so the people of the Jin family guessed whether the master there was a monk above the golden princes. What, Weisuo, the place recorded in this white jade rune is called Beigong, and it also mentions the real ghost, but the old man in green robe was immediately upon hearing Weisuo's two nouns. There was an exclamation. Why? You know this place. Weisuo moved his mind and withdrew his consciousness, saying, you can also check the consciousness, can you see it yourself? A green light immediately flowed out of Weisuo's chest. After entering the white jade charm, it was quickly collected back. At the moment of retraction, the old man in green robe yelled, this group of uninformed people monk Jin family. Where is this cave mansion, which is the relic of Baibei faction? The ruins of the Beigong faction, Weisuo asked immediately, what kind of sect is the Beigong faction? The Beigong faction is said to have been a small sect in the ancient Taoist monastery, but it was said that the two ancient monks in the ancient times had fought and destroyed the sky and created 7 heavenly domes. The monks who came out of the 7 heavenly domes had some relationships and gained some benefits. So they later became prominent monks, specializing in various bones and yin evil magic tools. It was only later said that they were destroyed by a rare beast chow that was rare for thousands of years. In the middle, but it has been thousands of years since I was refined, and I don't even know the specific location of the sect gate. This Beigong faction was named because the legion was in Beigongshan, the map to Broken Dragon Cliff. Is there also a place called Beigong above? Although this Beigong is not the original Beigong, it is enough to show that the Beigong faction was famous. It was unexpected that this person in gold armor actually left the dog shit. You can also happen to discover this kind of ancient Zongmen site. Weisuo, the address recorded on this jade is between Tianqian continent and Yunling continent. You must explore this place. This Beigong school is like the Qingcheng school, but they have all been above Jindan. The monks of the great monks in the Shenxian period may have Taoism inside, and the Xuankai may not necessarily be. There are probably many more benefits than visiting the scattered repair cave in my original plan. Old man, do you know the way to break the ban of the Beigong faction? Weisuo asked by the old man in green robe. I only know that the Behang faction's mountain protection array is a ghost formation, and some of them are forbidden, and I should know some of them, the old man in green robe replied. However, many Baibei factions have unique restrictions, but I do not know either. Since this is the case that can only be discussed from the long, it is still safe to go to the insurance first to get things. Weisuo smiled bitterly. He can understand the old man in green robe. The old man in green robe is very good. Obviously, there is not much confidence, otherwise the old man in green robe will definitely shout that I can, I am the best. Okay, at most we go to explore a few times, prepare more, be careful, the old man in green robe said excitedly again. Wei Suo nodded and said nothing more. After putting on the invisibility cloak again, he pushed open the door and quietly swept the roof of the other courtyard here. I saw that at the moment, most of the monks had already gathered under the 9-story building, and it seemed that no one had entered. After a little deep thought, Wei Suo's eyes locked on the courtyard of the Jinjia treasury that Jin Jiao said. Although many benefits have been obtained this time, there are not enough spirit stones, which is still not enough to allow Wei Suo to break through to the cultivation practice of divided thoughts. After discovering that Jin Shenxian was killed in the high-rise building, it is estimated that we still have to search for a while in the 9-story building, so that Wei Suo should have enough time to sneak into the warehouse and obtain the spirit stone inside. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 210. What? Among the dead 9-story towers, a heart-shattering scream suddenly came out. Quickly blocked the entire golden palace. After about half an incense, there was such a sharp roar inside. This is Jin Liang's voice, and it is obvious that those powerful monks in the Jinfu who had hit Wei Suo's plan to get away from the tiger had already hurried back. And just when the first scream came out of the 9-story building, Wei Suo was already standing in a closed stone room. At the door of the stone room was a disciple of Jinfu, a 5-layered mansion from the Jinhai realm. The whole body was stiff and could not move at all, but the breath was very stable. It seems that the life is not a big deal. In this stone chamber, there are many shelves and chests, inside which are many magic symbols, magical instruments, Jing gold ore, and some unfinished magical instruments. Inside one of the opened boxes, there are a lot of attractive spirit stones. If another Zhou Tianjing monk stood in this warehouse, I am afraid that his eyes would be gleaming with golden light, but at the moment Wei Suo's mouth unconsciously brought a bit of wry smile. Because Wei Suo, who often counts the number of spirit stones, is already very experienced in seeing the number of large piles of spirit stones. Now, without counting them, he can be sure that the spirit stones in the only spirit stone box in the warehouse are only about 80,000 inferior spirit stones. This is a far cry from the 200,000 inferior spirit stones he expected. Those spells and implements are basically of low rank, which is very attractive to the monks of Shanghai realm, but for monks like him who have many spiritual ranks and magic weapons in their hands, it can be said it doesn't have much effect. However, after shaking his head reluctantly, Wei Suo did not stay at all. He first put all of these spirit stones into the Nebao capsule, and then Wei Suo took out the Nebao capsule obtained from Jin Shenxian. The artifacts and Jing gold ore and other objects, including the unfinished artifacts and other objects, were all scraped away. Fortunately, these things are always useful for Wei Suo, whether they are useful or useless. The entire storeroom, which seemed full of dang, immediately became empty, like an empty house. Then Wei Suo moved, and flew out quickly. It was probably less than a tea time after Jin Liang's roar of quickly blocking the entire Jin mansion sounded, a loud bang, a Langfang in the other courtyard near Zhonghui suddenly blasting up from the ground, half of Langfang was bombed and collapsed. While the thunder and sparks were flying, and the mud and the rocks were flying, Jin Liang and Jin Quanji roared from the ground, and the grey-faced face burst out. The two people were wrapped in a crimson mask, and then a lot of black lines rushed out of the ground to crazily hit the mask outside the two people, making a popping noise. A red gong-like magic weapon of Jin Liang, every time it was struck, it flew out 5 or 6 thick tongues of arms, sweeping in vain. Jin Quan's short whip of gold spurs the ball of yellow thunder constantly. What are these things? The power of the magic weapon in the hands of these two people is obviously above the semi-spiritual level, but the two people's eyes are extremely horrified, and their faces are very blue. Their two magic weapons suddenly face these in a strange ruby-like sphere. The gushing black bugs don't seem to be of much importance at all. Even if they are blown by a thunderball and the tongue of fire is rolled, it seems that the black bugs that fell to the ground will not recover, and they will soon recover their vitality. In general, Fly back. Hearing the explosion here, many monks of the Jin family flew over. These black worms can actually destroy the magic weapon. When they saw that Jin Liang and Jin Quanji were besieged by these black worms, these monks immediately cast spells and magical tools and joined the battle group. But these monks exclaimed again and again, and some of them were in a mess. Some of the magical instruments among them even hovered twice in the air, and they fell to the ground. Brother! Father! A monk came from behind, and it was Jin Kong, who seemed to be less than 30 years old, but had a higher morale than Jin Quanji. Before Wei Suo learned from Yan Heng's mouth, among the children of Jin Liang, there are still two sons who are extremely talented. One is Jin Kong, who has a double heavenly environment this week, and the other is traveling abroad to Zhou Tianjing's triple repair of Jin Min. At this moment, the young monk who had to deal with Wei Suo at the very first time was also extremely iron-skinned, and not far from Jin Liang and Jin Quanji. He said sharply, "That man has already sneaked into our warehouse." "What?" Jin Liang shouted suddenly, "what did he take away?" "All taken away." "What?" Jin Liang looked like he was about to vomit blood, and paused, looking at the black bugs flying outside, his face almost twisted. "Kill these worms." "These worms, the worm is so powerful, it must be that he spent a lot of effort to cultivate it. Don't let go of anyone, even if you can't catch him, at least let him lose a lot." "Kill." Jin Kong and others suddenly turned red, killing these black diamond worms in a crazy way. If at ordinary times, if the people of the Jin family knew that the black diamond was regarded as the hard worm he had nurtured, Wei Suo would surely pass out, but even if Wei Suo knew at this moment, he might not have left. Because it was hundreds of feet away from the Jin mansion at this time, Wei Suo, who was in an alley, stood in front of him was a middle-aged monk wearing a green leather robe. In Wei Suo's hands, he was carrying a young man who looked unconscious. This young man who was not a monk was the one who had taken him out of Jinfu before, and helped him out to find a monk with a similar body to him. He first prepared Wang Tong, a Miao Fang buddy in the inn. It turned out that Wei Suo swept the treasury of the Golden Mansion, and took the people of the Golden Mansion into the ancestral hall. Before he could react, he left the Golden Mansion without stopping. But while passing by, Wei Suo just discovered the unconscious Wang Tong guarded by a Jinfu monk. Needless to think, he also knew that those monks who were definitely in Jinfu had found a plan to tune the tiger away from the mountain, and then he followed the vine from the monk who went to Ninkiya on his behalf and found Wang Tong. Seeing Wang Tong being guarded in the Jin mansion, Wei Suo immediately felt hesitant. Because his invisible vest can only cover him alone, it will be much more difficult to escape with a mortal, and the speed of escape from the Golden Mansion will certainly be much faster immediately, and the chance of being found increases greatly. In an instant, Wei Suo also had the idea of letting Wang Tong ignore it, because Wang Tong really had nothing to do with him, and it was easy to find out clearly, just to help him run errands for a few spirit stones. But after hesitating a little, Wei Suo still attacked the Jinfu monk and rescued Wang Tong. After all, Wang Tong was implicated by him, and Wei Suo was not sure. The Jin family would not be angry with this mortal who was just like a little ant to the monk. And like the previous ones, after drawing the gourd to restrain the Jinfu monk who guarded Wang Tong, Wei Suo found that Wang Tong was simply sealed by Zhenyuan with a few bloodlines, so he was comatose. Hinder. Originally, Wei Suo woke up Wang Tong casually, but in order to escape, he still let Wang Tong comatose. In order to avoid the monks in the Golden Mansion, Wei Suo absolutely spent much more time than he had originally fled, and then he and Wang Tong secretly escaped from the Golden Mansion. But just entering this alley, what worries Wei Suo the most is actually happening. A middle-aged monk in a green robe suddenly appeared on the other end of the alley and stopped him. With the sweep of Wei Suoang's chi technique, this great momentum is very extraordinary. The middle-aged monk with several eye-catching flame runes on the green leather robe, he is also a monk of Zhou Tianjing's fourfold. This Xiantai, what's the matter with you standing in front of me? Wei Suo saw that the monk's eyes seemed to have been fixed on himself, and he said it directly. Here is Lu Xiaoyuan, who belongs to the Lu family. The Qingbao monk glanced at the moment, still glimmering, and from time to time the roar came from the Jin mansion, looking at Wei Suo with a blank expression. Now Jin, there was a lot of change in the house, and Xiantai carried a comatose mortal, and the traces were indeed suspicious. Since it happened to be encountered below, I don't know if Xiantai can explain it. After all, the Jin family is also in Kifeng. In the city, if someone makes a big deal with the Jin family in the city, we can't just sit back and ignore it. The Lu family's people, Wei Suo's eyes flashed coldly, and he said blankly, he can only say that this mortal is my friend, and will definitely not be harmful to him. As for the others, I don't want to be troublesome. You don't want to block as well. Just because of your words, I want me not to stop you, but it's too unreasonable, the monk named Lu Xiaoyuan sneered, looking like he would never let it go. Even if I owe you a love for Lu family, will it be convenient for me? Wei Suo glanced at Lu Xiaoyuan, and Zhen Yuan urged, and had not flowed to the point where Shenhai Guanghua came out through the body. A huge breath has shocked out. Prefecture level, intermediate level exercises. Lu Xiaoyuan's face suddenly changed, his eyes flashing, and he seemed to be hesitating whether to block Wei Suo, but in a blink of an eye, the on Lu Xiaoyuan's face became immediately determined. Shook his head and said, I think it's better to ask Xiantai to stay first, and then wait until we figure out what happened. In that case, it's no wonder that I am. As soon as Wei Suo gritted his teeth, an aura of light suddenly appeared outside him, and at the same time, 6 groups of radiant glory spewed out in front of him. Liu Yang Shenhuoka was sacrificed by him directly. Because at this moment he has also discovered that a monk who seems not to be under himself has also approached, and this is why Lu Xiaoyuan suddenly became stiff. At this moment, the siege of these 2 monks joined together. It is still a small matter to attract the monks in Jinfu. The most serious thing is that if you cannot quickly escape from this place, you will definitely attract the Lu and Zhang families in charge of the city. The Siege of a Powerful Monk. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 211. Chapter 211. Are you looking for me? At this time, when the old deist was in doubt, he seemed to want to leave the place. In the bottom of the jungle, there was such a surging sound. You are concealing aura technique. No wonder I can escape my search. The old deist had no panic at all, and divine consciousness covered the direction of the surging sound and sneered. The red light flashed, Wei Suo in a red shirt swept out from the jungle on one side and looked at the old deist. I don't seem to know you, what is your intention to chase me? It doesn't matter if you don't know me, as long as I don't chase you, I will die. The old deist stretched out and a white light flashed out of his hand and hit Wei Suo. This name does not know what originated the old deist, even if he did not say a few words, he immediately moved his hand. Wei Suo's face changed and immediately ignited a divine light screen, and also smashed his red armor shield that had been cracked by Zhang family old ancestor. The surging sound of Pa, the divine light screen outside Wei Suo was instantly broken, and the white light hit the red armor shield. After hitting a pit, it bounced back, but it was also a piece. Only 1 foot long, like a willow-shaped shapeshift great art great treasure. Seeing the powerful energy of this willow-shaped shapeshift great art great treasure, Wei Suo's had a panicking look on his face, and once again rushed to a divine light screen, he turned and fled to the jungle below. I still want to go. The old deist had a slap in the face of a surging sound, and the foot shift of the shapeshift great art was chased down. With his embarrassment, Wei Suo, who is under his nose, must have escaped. In the escape, Wei Suo, who looked very horrified, suddenly appeared a sneer on his face. Seeing the change in Wei Suo's complexion, the mouse had to squint at old deist. Suddenly a burst of yellow chi surged, and his sight disappeared from Weisuo's, surrounded by sight, all of which were yellow rocks of giant great treasure. Earth attribute shapeshift great art. The horror of the old deist's eyes flashed, and he reached out and presented a white bottle gourd. But before he could do anything, a surging sound of, a transparent ripple suddenly exploded on his head. Ah! The mouse had to be an old Suro sound. The painful grey treasure called, the whole body naked body violently stiff, the white bottle gourd that had been suspended in front of him, but it was not able to be promptly provoked. As soon as this was a meal, bang, a few yellow boulders around him slammed on him. The mouse must have an old suffocating sound, and turned over the roll one's eyes, but it was not directly stunned, but at this time, a completely transparent figure, but no surging sound appeared in the breathless not far behind him, secret place. This completely transparent figure seemed to wave his hand, and as another transparent ripple blew on the brain of old deist, several thin black lights pierced the back neck of old deist. The mouse had to be old deist, and after the next roll one's eyes, he finally got naked and fainted. It's ridiculous to have a cultivation base like this, but it's okay to eat me. Taking off the invisible shapeshift great art, Weisuo, who showed up in the formation, looked at the old deist, who was fainting to the ground, and scorned it. This rat has to be old deist just like Weisuo heavenly circuit realm 4th base, and layer cultivation the present strength, even Weisuo realm 1st layer cultivator can barely deal with, but this and his cultivation base sibling cultivator a pair of Wei's appearance, underestimate the defense Suo Gre at the art device did not first put out, can be said to find their own death, to Weisuo send great treasure sent to spiritual stones. After some scornful surging sound, Weisuo searched the body of old deist. The good thing is the heavenly circuit realm 4th layer cultivator. This little thing about Weisuo's rat's old deist is still quite a lot. He used the willow-shaped white essence metal flying blade, which is obviously the shapeshift great art great treasure of the true spirit class. And his same willow-shaped flying shapeshift great art great treasure, not only looks better than Weisuo's current white jade crane, but also has a lottery than Weisuo's white jade crane. For Weisuo, it is very useful to use secret place. In addition to the two shapeshift great art great treasures, the rat's treasure receiving pocket from old deist has more than 7,000 spiritual stones, 2 bronze-faced shapeshift great art shields on both sides, and an ancient engraved on one side. The dry character of the naked body, engraved with an ancient naked body on the one side, also looks like a set of defense-protected shapeshift great art. Next, in addition to some chi recovery pellet and ordinary shapeshift great art, the mouse has 2 yellow paper notes in the old deist's treasure receiving pocket. These 2 yellow paper notes are very strange, not only the paper looks very old, but the red rune looks like a ghost, obediently twisted, extremely weird, and can't see what rank is. The role of talisman. After some curious look at the 2 yellow paper notes, Weisuo picked up the white bottle gourd that dropped the old deist on the ground. Just a little check, Weisuo's eyes flashed a look of surprise. This white bottle gourd doesn't have any special secret places, but it's all contained in the rotten corpse water that can erode the shapeshift great art. This made Weisuo think of the Blue Wind Mound, the old deist with an umbrella-shaped defense of the shapeshift great art great treasure. The old deist also had a bottle gourd with rotten corpse water, and the bottle gourd is still in the Weisuo's treasure receiving pocket, but the rotten corpse water inside is only a little bit, and it doesn't do much. Now that this white bottle gourd is full, the old deist must not see the doorway of Weisuo, the Golden Gate giant stone formation, and want to break the Weisuos by means of a great treasure. This shapeshift great art array. After a little indulging, Weisuo took the Golden Gate giant stone formation and tried the shuttle shift great art great treasure. This shape is like a willow-shaped flying shift. The shapeshift great art great treasure is not a great treasure. It can only stand up to 3 people at the top, but what makes Weisuo very satisfied is that this flying spoon shift great art great the treasure of treasure is much higher than the white jade crane. After 2 small pockets, Wei Suo has already controlled the flying spoon-shaped great art great treasure. After that, he grabbed the burlap and grabbed the fainted old deist, and continued to fly to the night mountain. Less than noon, carrying the Mao Susu old Suoists Wei Suo, the blue emperor bottle gourd, wrapped in azure chi, fell into the secret place valley where his cave house is located. To his great surprise, the 230 strains of immortal slaying vine planted in the past were very gratifying, and the highest one had already had a height of 3 feet. And on the ground below these immortals, there are 3 locusts that look a bit like great treasure, but there are 2 great treasure horns and a few monsters on the carapace with a little bit of streaked monster beast. Obviously, this is the most level 4 mid-level monster beast in the Little Night Mountain. These 3 stars should have happened to enter the valley and were killed by immortal slaying vine. And this level 4 mid-level monster beast, no matter is the surgery shapeshift great art strength, is extremely formidable. The valley immortal slaying vine looks all is safe appearance, said Ming. These have been long enough to 3 jong immortal slaying vine roots has been deeply into the mountain naked body do not know how much depth, otherwise, if and before the immortal slaying seedlings, even if the tie of this kind of great other monster beast, I am afraid in monster beast struggle also to be uprooted. After a pleasant surprise, the wreckage of these level 4 mid-level monster beast was also collected in the treasure receiving pocket. Wei Suo passed through the immortal slaying vine and plunged into the mountain naked body. I don't know how long it took. The mouse had to wake up old deist, and now he made a sitting posture and placed himself in a stone room. This stone room should be located in the mountainside. The air is not very circulated, so that the body is paralyzed, and the old deist without shapeshift great art controls true UN is slightly depressed. You have a poison needle in my tail B. I didn't move shapeshift great art, but I can still speak now. You can tell me why you should chase me, and when you meet, you will kill the killer? Ah, until then, the old deist was completely reacted to what was going on. The thrilling great treasure called a surging sound. But immediately see stand in front of their body not far secret place, face no table lust look at their Wei Suo, he is also immediately very is a single sneer up, unexpectedly I beat geese all day, today instead is goose pecked blind eyes, since I looked down on you, landed in your hands, I have nothing to say, to kill, and kill, what I want to know from my mouth, but is wishful thinking. Great. What the old deist didn't think was that Wei Suo didn't say anything after he said the words, but he didn't say anything at all, and he turned and went out. After a while, it was only Wei Suo who took a dark green pill bottle and walked in again, then took out a silver knife and made a small hole in the hand of old deist, who had no resistance. Then, a few drops of dark green medicine in this dark green pill bottle was dropped into his wound. After that, Wei Suo lost more than a dozen naked beasts' naked body on the open space in front of him. Then he turned and left without a word. The surging sound was farther away, and it seemed to be self-contained. Do other things. Ah! It was only after a moment that the old deist, whose face was in doubt, was so painful that he screamed. Wei Suo's dark green liquid dripping into his wound seems to have formed numerous fine needles of fiery hot in his naked body. He constantly punctures in his naked body, and he has a kind of pain. The scalp has to be blasted. The pain of being punctured by countless fire needles in this naked body lasted for an hour and slowly disappeared. The old deist was swallowed by sweat and seemed to be fished out of the water. Sir, a surging sound, and he had not had time to breathe a sigh of relief, only to see a monster in the front of a monster beast corpse naked body. There is a blood hole for no reason, and then, the brain of this monster beast was slowly absorbed. After that, it was a surging sound of, another monster beast's tianling cover was pierced, and a blood hole appeared, and the brain was sucked out. In this quiet, stoneless room with no surging sound, such a strange scene is simply overwhelmed by the old deist, who has already had some collapse. After a while, the surging sound sounded, and Wei Suo, who had no lust on the surface, came in again, holding a bloody spot on his hand, which seemed to have just been cut from the monster beast. Then, he was very interested. He cut a piece of meat on the hand of the old deist, took a bottle of white Dan liquid from the pouch, poured it on the wound of the old deist, and then this animal skin is attached to the wound of the old deist. After doing this, Weisuo didn't even bother to ask if he asked, and turned and walked out in the eyes of the old deist. Ah! After the time of the great treasure stick of incense, the old deist screamed again with his eyes open. His wound's secret place was not only irritating, but what made him feel terrified was that the animal skin seemed to start slowly growing on him. Old man, are you sure these tools are useful? In the screaming surging sound, standing in the fire furnace room, while refining Weisuo, his damaged shapeshift great art shield, asked green-robed old man. Of course, I have a master who can be a great treasure expert who is eager to make a confession. Like many cultivators, Dai is not afraid. But if I feel that the other person doesn't seem to want to ask him at all, it is very abnormal, and I am interested in torturing him. From time to time, get some fresh stuff on him and toss him up. He can't stand it in his heart, he will say everything. Green-robed old man is very sure. Just look at what time this guy can hold. Weisuo nodded, and some regretted. Unfortunately, the nightmare technique I got in the real magic condensate is going to be great treasure damage cultivation base, otherwise it will save a lot of trouble. A friend got a business war P game, just opened the service, the name is, and Swim Business Empire, the address is, interested book friends can play. Dedication. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 212. Be more durable, don't do it. Weisuo looked at the blood-red mask outside him while screaming in his heart. But what made him cry without tears, no matter what he called, the blood-red mask outside him was getting weaker and weaker. The brilliance on the blood-red mask was faint, and the speed of his escape has also begun to decrease. It is obvious that the power once activated by this blood escape charm will soon be exhausted. Although the blood escape treasure on his hand can still be activated twice, Weisuo felt that if he reactivated the blood escape treasure again, it is estimated that even if he did not die, he would have to lose his energy and blood to the loss of what is not conducive to cultivation. We saw that Weisuo turned his head again and looked at Jin Suiguang, who was getting closer and closer to himself. After a very depressed scolding, it was a shot of Zhen Yuan towards Wang Tong's body. Wang Tong's body moved, almost immediately waking up and turned around. Senior, as soon as he opened his eyes, he saw that he was actually being swept into the air by Weisuo, and Wang Tong was suddenly shocked. Don't say anything at this moment, listen to me. Weisuo quickly sank and flew towards a hill in front of him, and said quickly to Wang Tong, I was originally entrusted by someone. I sent a message to the Jin family, but the people in the Jin family had an internal fight. Now I am involved in you. I saw that you were restrained in the Jin family and rescued you. Now you are alarmed by the Lu family in your Kifeng city with the Zhang family. This monk who is chasing behind me is also very difficult to deal with, so I cannot protect you from escaping to a safe place. I will put you in the hills later, you find a hidden spot to hide yourself. You are not a monk, and there is not much aura fluctuations in your body. As long as you hide well, even if there is a monk search next, you may not be able to find you. If you can escape this robbery, it's better not to go back to Kifeng City. I'm going to tell you a practice method. You should try to remember the mantra. As much as you can understand, it depends on your chance. Hearing Weisuo's words, Wang Tong's eyes were filled with extremely grateful gods, but he did not speak, but nodded vigorously. Weisuo, regardless of whether Wang Tong could understand it, immediately said the words of Zi Xian Zhenju to Wang Tong twice. Anyway, Zi Xian Zhenju is not a high-end product in Tianxian continent. It is estimated that many of the low-level monks are also practicing. Moreover, Wei Suo now has Buletin Tiandan. Even if everyone is practicing Zai Xian Zhenju, it has nothing to do with him. After saying it twice, Wei Suo took out a handful of spirit stones again, probably about 200 or 300 inferior spirit stones, and stuffed them with Wangtong. Although it is not safe to throw mortals such as Wangtong into this wilderness, under the current circumstances, Wei Suo consciously did so. Dare to ask the real name of the senior. As long as I can escape this disaster, I will definitely repay the great grace of the senior in the future. And Wangtong is also very clear that changing the general monk is impossible to control his life and death, more it's impossible to give him the spirit stone. When he took the spirit stone, Wangtong was very grateful to say this. My surname is Wei, and I don't need to pay anything. If I can escape this robbery, I live far away from this place. I'm afraid there won't be any chance to meet in the future at this moment. Wei Suo was already in the hills. After saying this, Wei Suo flew and placed Wangtong on the ground in the dense forest. After that, he flew against the ground without stopping for a while, then rushed out of the hills and continued to fly away from Kifeng City. At this time, the rest of the chasing light was far away from sight, only the golden light continued to chase Wei Suo. About half an hour later, this old man with yellow eyebrows, named Zhang family patriarch, had already chased Wei Suo behind less than 300 feet. At this point, the blood light wrapped in Wei Suo had almost completely disappeared, and he did not cast the fire cloud escape again, but swallowed two back to Zhendan, and landed toward the ground in front. At the same time as he landed, he had inspired 3 aura masks in a row. Upon seeing such a move by Wei Suo, a sneer suddenly appeared on the face of the Zhang family ancestor still wrapped in golden light, and the speed of escape also dropped. He could see that the other party could not escape, and would fight him here. I said this predecessor has no grievances and enmity with you underneath. Why do you want to chase me down? As long as you open the net today, maybe everyone will meet each other later. Wei Suo landed on the ground, facing Zhang Jia's ancestors who came flying by. He made such a sound. Your Excellency broke out in Kifeng City and her people, and it seems that you have made greater movements in the Jin family. If you come and go, all monks in the Tianqian continent will not take Kifeng City in the future. How can it be said that there is no injustice and no hatred? Zhang's ancestor also stopped at a distance from Wei Suo, a sneer. Are you from the Jin family or the Lu family? Wei Suo suddenly asked such a question. The ancestor of the Zhang family stunned slightly and said, Auntying Zhang is the current owner of the Zhang family. Since it's not the Jin family or the Lu family, then I hurt their people, and it has little to do with your Zhang family. Wei Suodeo said, it's not as good as you gave me personal feelings today. If you Zhang family will help in the future, I have the ability to help as much as possible. As for you said that there is no way to explain, just grab your bag on the top of your head. Are you kidding me? Zhang Zhang's ancestor, who didn't expect Wei Suo to say such words, could not help but stay for a while. After a while, he suddenly became furious and screamed loudly. Can't you discuss it? Or if I give you 60,000 pieces of spirit stone, you will be as if you haven't caught up with me. Wei Suo looked at Zhang's ancestor and said in a consultative way. You buy me up? Zhang family's ancestor's eyes widened inexplicably. He had lived this age, and he had never seen a monk like Wei Suo. Hey, but Wei Suo still looked around, and some sneaky continued, if the senior is not satisfied, I still have a good technique here. You can also tell the senior. Do you want to delay some time intentionally? Zhang family's ancestor suddenly laughed and said disdainfully, not to mention that the things you give are nothing to me, even if I am really greedy for what you are, as long as you are taken down, everything in you is not mine. This old fox hasn't had Alzheimer's dementia, the response is so fast, Wei Suo screamed in his heart. The reason why he said that, he really wanted to delay some time, waiting for the effect of the heavenly Daedon. Because he can see that the cultivation behavior of the Zhang family ancestor is really divided into two levels, and with the effectiveness of the heavenly Daedon, does the true Yuan strength equal to the 4 levels of the split period, but it is not comparable to his. But at the same time he screamed in his heart, he was very shameless and said quietly, it seems that the seniors really didn't give any face at all. Underneath, it was the inner disciple of the spirit beast palace. Me and my sister's relationship with her heart is very good, and she started with them together. Are you an inner disciple of the spirit beast palace? Upon hearing Wei Suo say this, the of the Zhang family's ancestor suddenly became solemn. Of course Wei Suo nodded his head very seriously. Below is a disciple of the inner gate of the spirit beast palace, like a fake replacement. This. Zhang's ancestors hesitated suddenly, asking the other party to be the inner disciple of the spirit beast palace, but he dare not dare to hurt the killer. But after blinking his eyes, he remembered something similar and asked, since you say you are a disciple of the spirit beast palace, there must be a decree of the disciples inside the spirit beast palace. Of course there is, but this time I went out, but I didn't bring it with me. Wei Suo was shocked, and suddenly regretted losing the decree that Xian Yalan gave him. In this way, I have some friendship with elder Li Xuanhuan in Gui Palace. You are a disciple of the Spirit Beast Palace. You can't not know him. But he rarely goes out. Only the disciples of the Spirit Beast Palace know his appearance. As long as you tell the appearance proves that you are a disciple of the Spirit Beast Palace. For his own sake, I will look at his face. I will not pursue your matter in Kifeng City this time and help you to cover up this matter. Ancestor Zhang family looked at Wei Suo and said. Wei Suo suddenly couldn't help crying and laughing. He didn't even hear the name of Li Xuanhuan, and he knew what this person looked like, but he still pretended to have a confident look. Elders are old people. Elder Li, I have also met a few times. He prefers bright veil, and people are thinner. In recent years, his hair is a little whitish, his nose is sharp, and his figure is probably similar to the predecessor. Oh! You even know that he likes the bright vests, but it seems that you are indeed a disciple of the Spirit Beast Palace. Zhang Wei's eyes flashed when he heard Wei Suo say that. Don't I hit it by mistake, and said it in a mess, actually got me right. Wei Suo himself didn't believe it. Since it is really a disciple of the Spirit Beast Palace, then I will look at his face and help you cover up this matter. Zhang's ancestor looked at Wei Suo said, you can leave now. Ha ha ha. Wei Suo suddenly got his mouth crooked, but when he was about to run away without a sound, he suddenly saw a strange appear in the corner of Zhang's ancestor's mouth. At this moment, Wei Suo, who was very optimistic, immediately made a strange cry, and immediately started to stir up the fire of Liu Yang. And just when he started to inspire Liu Yang Shenhuoka, Zhang family's ancestors' hands were already stretched out, and a black mirror-like magic weapon had appeared in front of him, exuding black stripes. Old man, do you dare to kill even the disciples of the Spirit Beast Palace? Wei Suo screamed as he excitedly stimulated Liu Yang Shenhuoka. You are a disciple of a Spirit Beast Palace. Li Xuanhuan is just a name I casually put out. You actually believe it and tell me what it looks like? Zhang's ancestor sneered. It's really yours to get it out. This chapter was uploaded by friends. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 213. While the sneers of Zhang family's ancestors sounded, a boom sounded softly, but a transparent ripple was already rippling on his head. Zhang's ancestor's face suddenly changed, and his face seemed to be somewhat distorted, but immediately returned to normal. Originally, his cultivation practice was the first sneak attack, and the magic weapon must be faster than Wei Suo, but this time, Wei Suo first excited Liu Yang Shenhuoka. I saw the glorious glory of the 6 regiments flashing at the same time. A golden flame instantly reached the Zhang family ancestors not far away. No wonder they dare to attack in Kifeng City, but you still want to fight against me, but you are still close. Who is Qin Laomo? But the Zhang family ancestor did not panic at all. It seemed that he was already prepared. He closed his eyes and said the sentence slowly, but he did not sacrifice any defensive magic weapon, but continued to excite the black in front of him. The ancient mirror-like magic weapon. This round ancient mirror is only about the size of a slap, but on the back is a peculiar rune like a spider. With the constant attention of the Zhang family ancestors, the black Xuanhuan that has flowed out quickly condenses into countless black filaments, like a black ball of hair flying in the air, flocked to the 6 Yangshenhuoka, which was less than 3 feet away from Zhang's ancestor. Will not. What made Wei Suo somewhat dumbfounded was that the black wire that first touched the Liu Yangshenhuo fork was burned to fly ash directly, but as an alarming amount of black silk surged up, Liu Yangshenhuo fork moved forward a foot. He was entangled in the air, not only unable to enter, but also completely entangled by the black silk, directly taken away by the other party. Seeing such a scene, Wei Suo suddenly instinctively inspired mother-in-law's Banlei hammer. I saw a loud noise, and a gold lightning sledgehammer knocked it down, finally breaking up the small half of the black wire, so that Wei Suo took back the 6 Yangshenhuo fork. At the same time, the ancestor of the Zhang family just sneered. It was a leisurely offering of a snowy white shield with a very cold atmosphere. Then, as his hands fluttered, a large group of 3 or 4 feet the bright yellow cloud clusters on the side lighted up above Wei Suo. Wei Suo looked up slightly, and saw the crackling explosion in the bright yellow cloud, and countless lightnings over a foot long appeared, but directly below him, it was as if seeping water, a drop of golden thunder was dripping out. Some unpleasant Wei Suo suddenly burst into flames under his feet and flew back, trying to escape from the range covered by this yellow cloud, but when his figure moved, this bright yellow cloud turned out to be extremely strange move with him. But he only swept back 5 feet, and a drop of golden thunder liquid had dripped down. Puff. Just a drop of golden thunder fell on Wei Suo's outermost aura, and the aura immediately shone and shattered. Puff. Immediately after the second golden thunder drop, Wei Suo's second layer of aura mask did not have any blocking ability and generally broke. Seeing this, Wei Suo's pupils contracted, and he immediately took out his complete set of red magic shields from the Nabeo capsule and excited. From the Battle of Qingfenglingdi Mausoleum to Meishan Valley, Wei Suo obtained many aura shield-like artifacts. Now he has these aura-like artifacts in his hand, but he chose them after careful selection. Yes, the power of each aura mask is more than half a spirit level. But even this aura of light can't stop the drop of golden thunder. Obviously, the power of each drop of golden liquid seems to be comparable to the attack power of a magical inferior spell. This is still within the time of the effect of Tian Dao Dan, which is equivalent to the magical power exerted by the Zhang family ancestors who have been divided into 4 layers of the realm of thought. 20 faces of red gem-like Dharma shields immediately appeared, divided into 3 weeks, surrounding Wei Suo's body. At the same time, Wei Suo made a fake move to fly forward to the left, but actually swept to the right and rear. He did this because it seemed that the bright yellow thundercloud would not disappear for a while. Even with such a complete set of shields, it would be unstoppable for a long time, and it could only be seen. Escape from this yellow cloud-enveloped area. But what made him extremely ugly is that his fakes were useless at all. His figure moved to the right and back, and the yellow clouds immediately followed the shadows and followed his head. Crack! 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 3 bursts of sound. In this moment of kung fu, the outermost layer of the 3 red shields fell down. In this period of time, the Zhang family ancestor did not cast other magical instruments, but was interested. He looked at Wei Suo with the same joke as the old cat watching the mouse with nowhere to go. Unexpectedly, you still have such a set of magic shields. Seeing this set of Wei shields sacrificed by Wei Suo at the moment, and being destroyed on 3 sides, the rest of the shields were not affected at all. A sigh of surprise appeared in the eyes of the Zhang family ancestor, but looking at Wei Suo when he fled, He also smiled with pride. My thundercloud is like some thunderclouds. It automatically follows the airflow brought by the monk when he flies. So no matter your fake actions, no matter how realistic it is also where you go and where it follows. There is only one way to keep it from chasing you, and that is to stand still and it will not chase. Standing still, Wei Suo stunned, just thinking how the old man was so kind, he would tell himself the cracking method, but he immediately reacted and called out, "Dead old man, you are like a shit. The thundercloud was just above my head when you let it out. You made me stand still, it won't chase it, I'm still waiting to be hacked by it. You're not stupid, you want to understand it so quickly." Zhang family ancestor laughed, said, "I'm telling you to stop trying so hard, and die." "Dead old man, do you really not accept me to buy it?" Wei Suo allowed. "Anyway, no one else sees here. If you let me go now, we will still be good brothers after seeing you. And you, if you don't let me, even if you kill me, my set of shields will definitely be completely exhausted, and you won't get it. How about, if you let me go now, not only do I put all these sets of shields here you are, and tell you the method of refining the set of magic shields. You think about it, you will definitely make a lot of money. The method of refining the complete set of law shields." Zhang's ancestor stunned slightly. Wei Sao said this, but he was indeed a bit emotional. After all, he could see that the defensive power of each set of the set of shields was above half spirit level. The defensive effect of such a set of shields superimposed was obvious. It is better than the defensive shield of the real spirit level. But at the moment of his slight hesitation, a wave of waves, a transparent ripple again exploded on his forehead, and his body was slightly frozen. "Old man! Go to hell!" Taking advantage of the shock of the consciousness to make Zhang family's ancestors stiffen, Wei Suo shouted again, inspiring Liu Yang Shenhuoka again. Faced with the existence of Zhang family's ancestors, which is much higher than him, even if Zhang family's ancestors really eager to accept his purchase, he has no confidence in dealing with him. "You are looking for death." The ancestor of the Zhang family did not expect that Wei Suo would shoot abruptly at this moment. His eyes were so stinging that his face was suddenly cold. I saw that he didn't panic and pointed his hand to the black mirror that had been suspended in front of him. At the same time, a blue light also flew out of his sleeve, but it was a pair of green scissors. Magic weapon went straight towards Wei Suo. The black silk surged on the black mirror, and tied the 6 Yang Shenhuo fork into the sky, pap, 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 bursting out again and again. This blue scissors-like magic weapon from Zhang's ancestor shouted. The red shield on one side of the first layer entered at the edge, even the second layer was broken. The 2 red shields on the third layer hit the red armor shield in front of Wei Suo, and the red armor shield was shot out. A crack. This piece of blue scissors-like magic weapon, Wei Neng, did not even look like the 6 fire gods. Wei Suo's face turned pale. But he didn't hesitate at all, only to see a silver scepter appeared in his hand, just at the moment when the handle was obviously recovered from the middle-level blue scissor magic weapon of the spirit level. There was a loud bang and a cloud of grey. The black guanghua rushed out of the silver stub and hit the blue scissors. Oh! The green scissor-like method of BMW's white smoke is furious, the aura is greatly lost, and it is obviously damaged. It makes Zhang family's ancestor instantly change. "Boy, you dare to ruin my magic weapon. I will collect your magic weapon first." In an unusually loud scream, the Zhang family's ancestor Xuanhuan surged and saw the glory of the 6 Yang fire fork extinguished, wrapped in black silk, as if to be sucked into the black mirror. "Shut up." With a blank expression, Wei Suo put the silver stub in his arms, and with a whiz, he saw a black light flying towards the Zhang family ancestor. A semi-linguistic weapon, also thought hurt me. At a glance, it was clear that the black light was a sneered face of Zhang family's ancestor transformed by a black knife, and he didn't do anything at all. It seemed to wait for the knife to hit the white shield in front of him. and then saw that this black knife was frozen by his white shield. But what made his face pale instantly was that a blood bead suddenly came out from the tip of the black knife. With a snap sound, the real spirit level in front of him Nian Xianbing shield was beaten directly and torn apart. At this moment, I saw that his entire right arm exuded white crystal ice, and grabbed the blood bead. Wow! The entire right arm of Zhang's ancestor disappeared instantly. But at the same time, he sprayed a white light at the same time as he opened his mouth. Crack! Wei Suo's red armor like a thick door was hit by the white light, and then the white light hit Wei Suo without stopping.